Hello everybody and welcome back to Tim Talks. We are back another episode. And yeah, we're back very early. I think last week we did an episode on Thursday, now it's a Tuesday when we're doing this episode. So there might be a bonus episode this week or something. Again, I don't want burnout, but very sort of bored at the moment. So you know what? Keep myself interested. We'll do another podcast. We'll see how we get on. I always say that. I was interested to do a continuation on from last week where we talked about the DART, basically the Dublin Area Rapid Transit. I was thinking I feel like doing the LUAS, which is the other main method of transport in Dublin besides the Dublin bus services. So I was like, you know what, I have a very good knowledge of at least one of these lines, so I'm going to talk about the Green Line anyways, and then Red Line will sketchy enough knowledge of, but I'll just give my brief of what I've seen, whatever sketchy research I do in that moment. So, without further ado, let us get in. Starting off with the Green Line, a little bit of history about the LUAS. The LUAS was began operation in 2004. It means speed in Irish. The length of the system is 42 kilometers. It's run by Transdev, who are this big train company from Ireland. And there's a number of stations. There's 67 stations to cover, so quite a lot more than the DART. I think the DART was only about 30, maybe, I want to say. And so I guess we're going to fly through this a bit quicker than we would with the DART. And the thing about the DART was more of a coastal situation. This is more of an inland for Dublin as well, and it goes right down to the suburbs of Dublin, right into the centre of Dublin. So it's a pretty handy service. In my opinion, there's a big gap where it doesn't cover in the centre of Dublin, the South Dublin, and also to the west of Dublin to North Dublin. There's no real transit there, so I think that's a big issue that they probably need to maybe make a new line, or I don't even know. But anyways, let's start off with the Green Line. I'm going to start from the very outside of Dublin and we'll work our way into the centre of Dublin and then back out on the Red Line. So the Green Line is historically probably more of a wealthy area just due to its positioning in sort of South Dublin, while the Red Line covers also South Dublin, but the western side of South Dublin, which is a bit poorer. So we'll begin with Bride's Glen. This is the very first stop. It's a typical stop I would get to say if I want to get home from, say, Dundrum, which is a big shopping centre. So Bride's Glen would take you right out to basically the middle of nowhere in Dublin, actually near Carrickmines, to be honest, but that's also sort of secluded a little bit. So it's quite a secluded stop. You'd be waiting quite a while for buses from here, but again, bus services would connect you to Bray, connect you to Dún Laoghaire, etc. But yeah, it's quite a ways out. This whole area, it's not really a place, but it's near and other places. Do you know what I mean? It is an empty plot of land. I don't know why it's an empty plot of land. It just happens to be. There is a Cherrywood place called Cherrywood, which is sort of a new area. Again, more of an industrial estate than really a residential. But hey, it serves for businesses mainly. Next up we have, right, let's get into our next stop. We have Cherrywood itself, and Cherrywood is obviously a newish stop that serves the Dún Laoghaire Rathdown area, such as Sandyford, and it's an extension on the Sandyford line. It only opened in 2010, by the way, so I guess it was kind of needed, a bit. But at the same time, I don't really see many passengers getting on this far, so I'm kind of confused why it exists. Sandyford is probably where most people get on, so it's a bit of an interesting choice of a place for a stop. Honestly, if I were me, I would try and extend the LUAS Green Line down to Bray, but I believe with the current infrastructure it's not really possible. I mean, that would make a lot of things handier because Bray is more of an needed to go place, and it would also improve, I believe, the capacity of this stop, and it would make sense for this line. Anyways, it would probably make a line quite too long, but hey, maybe introduce a new line, as I mentioned earlier. Again, LUAS is one of these things where there's probably improvements that could be in the works. Anyways, next up we have Loughlinstown, not Loughlinstown as I was thinking, Loughlinstown. Surely this is not Loughlinstown. Another new stop, also serving in the same area, just a little bit ways on from our next stop. And again, this is also rare, kind of gained steam during the Celtic Tiger, but of course nothing came about. This is kind of a wasteland. There are very few buildings in this area. It's really a travesty. It's kind of just a sign of why even bother have this stop here. It's a lot of LUAS is excess, especially at the time when the country had money, and now that the country doesn't have money, it's in a very awkward predicament. Next up we have Brenson, another stop that's not being used, so it's not even mentioned on this list. But again, look at all these stops, look at all this infrastructure they've put in place, bridges and stuff, and it's clear that there's been a lot of money pumped into it, and of course the money probably hasn't been coming out. Next up, Carrickmines, this one makes a lot more sense in terms of stops. Of course, there's a big shopping outlet here where you can go and get lots of food, lots of clothes, and lots of goods. So this makes a lot of sense. A lot of people go to Carrickmines, very busy place. A lot of car traffic here. I would argue cars are a lot easier to get here because there is a bit of a walk from the stop. For instance, it's actually across the motorway and up a big road. So it's probably about a 20-minute walk, 15-20-minute walk. So the fact that this stop is called Carrickmines is kind of an insult to Carrickmines. It's miles away from Carrickmines. Maybe if you live in a house near Carrickmines. Again, this actual LUAS is quite, in my opinion, a bit of a desolate spot. Once again, lots of trees around and not much activity. So I would honestly, why didn't they make this near Carrickmines? I suppose it's off the beaten track a little bit, but still, it just kind of pisses me off. Look at the placement of some of these places. Next up we have Racecourse, another unused stop here, and this is of course Leopard Racecourse, a very famous, well-to-do place, because of course a lot of rich people go here for racing. Question I would have is, sure, it would probably get a few people into the place, but most people who go to racing have cars, so maybe not the smartest place to have a stop. But hey, at least there is something here. There's a lot of people complaining about, like, what is the placement of these stops? These are really stupid, and a lot of times buses are much easier travel. Even the buses aren't great, but even compared to this, buses are a lot more closer to the places you want to be, and a lot more frequent, and well, maybe not frequent, but just better in general. Next we have Ballyogan Wood. Ballyogan Wood is, as the name suggests, a wood. It's near the M50. It's still in the middle of nowhere. I'm just gonna brush over this one because it's still about in the area of Dublin where it's kind of built up, but it's probably not close to those built up areas, just being that it's in that sort of dead zone. Next up we have Leopardstown Valley. Leopardstown Valley, I think it's starting to get actual populated here. Leopardstown, of course, Racecourse, we've already mentioned that. There is a few houses now starting to pick up, a few estates that actually have been built, so it's starting to get more promising. Next up we have the Gallops. The Gallops is an actual, people live here. This is crazy. But yeah, this will be the first Arbor stop where I'll be like, okay, this one actually makes sense. There's a good built up area here. I've gone past it a few times. A lot of people actually use this space. Right beside the housing, great. You could argue that the very frequent services the LUAS provides is handy here because it's quite a nice short journey into Dublin, well, suburbs and Dundrum, etc. So I argue that this is a really nice placement of a stop, and I would argue this was where the station should start. Next up, we have, I keep saying next up and it's kind of annoying, but anyways, Glencairn. Funny that Glencairn, because Glencairn is the house here where the official resident of the British ambassador lives. It's in the Leopardstown area. Glencairn is also a housing construction agency which also has ties to Greystones, so they build stuff here. It's served by bus routes. Don't know much else about this place. I know is that the ambassador link, that's about it. Another new sort of what we call it, Celtic Tiger stop, 2010. Again, all these housing estates are very new, by the way. Then we have the M50. Great. I think it just curves around the M50. The M50, by the way, is the sort of C-shaped motorway which travels around Dublin. A very good motorway, very handy. It can get packed, but again, that's how motorways work. So it does. It's very fast compared to the regional roads that run in Dublin. Next up, we have Central Park. Not as the name suggests. This is not. This is not the middle of New York. We haven't just gone through a portal. No, this is a part of Dublin. It's very new. Also new. A lot of the South Dublin is new. Opened in 2010. New residential. So it still has a clean sort of new feel to it. It's only been open for 11 years. One thing about it as well is it's a very sort of like Grand Canal type build up of housing. Not housing, of basically fully commercial buildings. all serving sort of, whatever businesses are probably provided there. I believe this is part of the Sandyford industrial estate, I want to say, and of course that's a new industrial estate, kind of a bleak, depressing place, but at the same time, I guess a landmark to the sort of hopes and dreams of the Celtic Tiger. Oh, this is new boom, but doesn't seem the most active place in the world, to be honest, but it does have good views of the mountains, so I guess there are silver linings there. Next we have Depot, which I guess this is where sort of our next main, more frequent service begins, with Sandyford. Sandyford Industrial Estate is a very this is actually opened in 2004. The entire industrial estate Sandyford is huge. It's built up quite a big reputation now. There's actually a fair bit of housing nowadays, but in terms of its location, its placement, it is a very vast but sort of dead area. I do know that there's a good climbing place here, so that's a handy place to go to due to its like big vast warehouses. But Sandyford, it's not the sort of place you're going to hang out or want to go to, but it is a good area to get through to somewhere else. And in terms of like bus links, it's quite hard to find buses. It's not very friendly for walking. It's probably a great place to drive through due to its new infrastructure. But apart from that, it is very much a dead zone. And it kind of spans on for a few kilometers. But again, inland, or more to the sea, you have all the big town, villages and stuff, and then inland you just have like a lot of forest. So it's a weird placement, and I would argue it's slightly far away. Well, it's not too bad. There is a few houses and all here. The Beacon Hospital, it's not a million miles away from other things, but the actual industrial estate itself is a bit of an odd spot for a major tram. Anyways, next move on to more, important places. Next up we have Stillorgan. Stillorgan is a historically, weirdly enough, this is called Stillorgan, but the placement of this stop is not in Stillorgan, in my opinion. Well, Stillorgan itself is a kind of a large area, I guess you would say. Stillorgan is a place, I've been to a good few times, and so it's got a cinema, it's got a few restaurants, not much else going for it, a few grinds places, but if you actually look at where the LUAS goes, it's criminal how far away this is from actual Stillorgan. Like, I'm doing like a directions from this to the Stillorgan LUAS stop. It's literally 20 minutes, give or take 20 minutes from here with the bus. So the calling of this as Stillorgan is kind of crazy. Like, it's ridiculous, I think, and it's a bit of a false advertisement. Even for like, if you're surely just get the bus, you actually have to get a bus from here to Stillorgan. So I this pisses me off big time. It's such a dead spot, and it's also, why would you need the two stops? Like, why do you need Stillorgan and Sandyford? They're right beside each other. Doesn't make sense. Sorry, my bad mood's coming out today. Next we have Kilmacud. Kilmacud is more of a noticeable stop based on the fact that it has these sort of concrete structures that I guess wouldn't call it brutalist. I'd more just say it's the very new, clinsy, boring stop, built into the hills a little bit. I don't mind it too much, but again, I wouldn't like go on about it like the dark, more historical stops, which are more nice to look at. It's not the worst. It's quite clean. I would honestly say it's grand, but nothing much to it. Kilmacud is a suburb here. So it's not the worst place in the world. At least I've actually heard of a place of Kilmacud. It's not like just a made up place. Not a made up place, but like very false. It's actually Kilmacud, I think, this area. So it's a suburb in Dunleary, and it's contiguous with Stillorgan. So Stillorgan is kind of like the main hub of this general area, and therefore it's very hard to say, oh, this population of X is this, because a lot of the areas are sort of conglomerated together. So yeah, it's quite near to Kilmacud. Kilmacud would actually be closer to Stillorgan Sorry, it would be closer. Sorry, Kilmacud would be closer to the Slurgan stop than Stillorgan is the Slurgan stop. So I find that kind of funny. Yeah, Stillorgan's a nice spot. It's a bit boring, but it's got stuff. It's got a few things there, you know. So historically, it's probably been a pretty important area. So next up, being the first, I think, shopping centre in Dublin. Anyways, we'll talk about shopping centres in a bit. Ballalley. I like the name of Ballalley. I don't know why. Just like the name Ballalley. It serves the suburbs of Ballalley and Goatstown. So at least it's serving suburbs. Ballalley only has 4,800 people. It does have a few shops there, right where the centre of the stop is, which I kind of like. I think that's kind of cool. Really handy. And also Goatstown, which is, contrary to the name, not full of goats, apparently. But it's a really small spot. It's got a few little bits and bobs, but nothing major, to be honest. Yeah, I'd say it looks kind of pleasant. I think this is near the road, the M50. No, it's a bit inwards, but look, it's not something I'll be like, oh my god, on Goatstown. But yeah, I think it does pass by the major road, maybe, I want to argue. Maybe not. But there you go, Ballalley. It's fairly self-explanatory and fairly good stop, to be honest. Like, it makes sense. Next up, we have the Granddaddy, the big one, Dundrum. This serves Dundrum Shopping Centre. It's actually a very handy stop for obvious reasons, because this is where a major shopping centre, I think this is one of the biggest ones in Dublin. Again, you looked at the likes of Stillorgan when they used to have their, we have our big shopping centre, look at us go, first one in Ireland or whatever. Then Dundrum comes along and literally, I think it was about 20 years ago, built this place. Just blew it out of the water. 2005, again, this is the height of the boom, all the money coming into the country. It is got 169 tenants, 140,000 metre space, 3,400 car parks. It's huge. It's really good. I honestly don't really have much bad stuff to say about it. Real clean, real nice looking. Great outdoor area with fountains. Great cinema there. Unbelievable cinema. Lots of shops, as I said. And overall, I give it the thumbs up. Some great restaurants there. And yeah, it's a quality, in my opinion, it's a huge area. It's a quality, really handy spot in the middle of residential, and great access to this LUAS. So, in my opinion, unbelievable spot for a shopping centre. It's also near Airfield, which is cool. Airfield Estate, which is like a farm in the city. But I have loads of things to say about this place. I've been to Dundrum a million times. Great cinema, and in terms of where I live, you can just hop on the M50 and you're basically there in about 20 minutes. So can't have any complaints about this place. Yeah, thumbs up. Next up, we have Windy Arbor. Windy Arbor is one I like to also have fun at because it sounds like you're a pirate or something. Don't know why I made that joke. It wasn't really a joke, but anyways, it serves the areas of Windy Arbor. I've never even heard of Windy Arbor before. What the hell is Windy Arbor? It seems like a few settlements there. Apparently, the area was originally called Naglasan, which means Greenland. But Windy Harbour or Sandy Harbour is later adapted. Again, I don't really understand this because we are a million miles away from the sea, such as Sandyford and this place. But apparently, it's a river slang. I don't know what that is. Dundrum slang, which means, I don't even know if this was a thing. Apparently, there's slang. What's slang? Oh, the actual river is called Slang as opposed to it being a slang for a river. But apparently a stanch mill was located here. An arbor has a mean grass plot. Again, if someone can explain to me why Sandyford is called Sandyford, I will give you €1,000,000. Due to the fact, Sandyford is not near the sea. And Sandyford would suggest it's a sandy fjord. But of course, there's no fjord. There's no sand. So I really don't understand the name, so I might just go back and check. Why? There's 7,000 people living here. I didn't even know that. Name, meaning. I mean, it actually pisses me off every day. I have to say, why the hell is Sandyford called Sandyford? Yeah, Sandyford. I mean Sandyford. What? Seriously, I'm so confused. I really am. Was there a river here or something? That actually pissed me off so bad. Right, we're going to move on because that was just pain right there. Yeah, nice areas, really nice areas. We're getting into decently populated areas, so that's cool. Next up, we have the Nine Arches River and the Nine Arches Bridge. Really nice bridge, really nice spot. Yeah, you should give it a visit, to be honest. Really historical, over 160 years old. It's also got a little old pipe. I remember getting the LUAS here to, I believe, a work placement a few years ago. So this was a really handy spot, and this was a stop I think I got off at. And yeah, I enjoyed it every day because it was just nice looking. Simple as. Yeah, Milltown, again, that's a pretty much understandable name, being that it's a mill. Not much other explanation of that. It covers the southern parts of the Dartry, which is a small suburb of Dublin. You know, a lot of these places are just nice wooded, nice trees, mixed with good housing. Nice. Also, there's a historical railway here called the Harcourt Street Railway, which used to be run with steam rail cars, which is really cool. It was only open for about 100 years, from 1854 to 1858. So I believe part of that old steam railway with that bridge used to be that old stop. So that's cool. Next up, we have Cowper. Cowper is another one. I have no explanation of that name. Similar to a couple of the other ones, they're unusual names, but they're cool in their uniqueness, I think. Now we have Beechwood. Beechwood. Again, this is basically the Harcourt Street railway line continued. So I guess that's kind of handy in that they didn't have to, rebuild everything from scratch. There was existing lines there. There was existing space there that was already sort of carved out. And yeah, Rathmines, Ranelagh, we're getting into that area of it's a very nice area. Ranelagh, yeah, it's a very sort of popular area nowadays. Got a bit of wealth here. Historically outside of Dublin. Yeah, I'd say this is a very popular area. Nice forests, woods, chill, lots of apartments and stuff like that. Yeah, I'd say expensive enough to live here though. Now if you have Charimant, very nice name. Actually, I should mention Ranelagh also features Rathmines, which is a nice area as well. Very busy shops, and a traditional flatland. So basically popular for third level students, senior civil servants. I believe there's Trinity Halls here, maybe. There's a lot going on in this area, quite close to the sort of bigged up areas. Yeah, I think this is quite a decent spot. Got a few shops here. It's no near Dublin or Dundrum, but it's a nice medium. You're not dealing with more of the hectic side of the main street. So maybe if you're just looking for a much more chill day near Dublin, look no further. Charimant, I think we mentioned this is near I didn't mention it, but it's near the Portobello area, along with the Grand Canal. So this is a really nice spot. Portobello, another interesting place, and historical, a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of industry or whatever, and nowadays just a nice spot. Probably going to be paying the arm and a leg for housing, but hey, it's good for college students or whatever, handy if you're going to Dublin. Then of course you have the actual Grand Canal, really historic Grand Canal, basically constructed in 50 years along the Dublin south side, and it's the sister canal to the Royal Canal, which was completed after. Sorry, was it completed afterwards? Yes, it was completed afterwards, but 20 years, so about half the time in the construction of the Royal Canal. So there you go. When canals were big back in the 1700s, before trains took off. Yes, we have Harcourt. Harcourt, you're basically in Dublin at the stage. you're nearly there. You feel you can see all the big buildings around you. A few historical ones as well. Heading right into the South Dublin city centre. Cool. Nice little old station that used to be here. Kind of got demolished, I think. Used to have the big. This is crazy. I never knew this, but it actually has a big roof over it, which looked kind of like Pierce. So that's cool. And it opened in 1859 as a terminus of the line from Dublin to Bray, which I never knew existed. That's cool. Something you didn't know. So I guess it was part of that Dublin, Wicklow, and Wexford Railway, I want to say, which is nice. And then, of course, the 50 years of just closure, and then we got the new line. So I'm just looking at it here, and yeah, it started in Bray, went in Wexford, all the way inland. So a lot of these are existing routes, and some new ones. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. There was two routes. There was a Dart route, and there was also the inland. So that's kind of cool. Like there was a split at Shankill, and you can go inland, and you can go outland, and of course that sort of new redevelopment became the Green Line, which I believe why couldn't they bring that back to Bray? I don't know. Even Shankill. But yeah, it's kind of cool how that has a sort of historical side to it. But yeah, we got to move on. St. Stephen's Green. Yeah, this is pretty much the centre of like near Grafton Street. Obviously historically, St. Stephen's Green has a lot of importance to it. The whole area is really nice. Historical places, museums and stuff. You got it all here. Been here a million times. Could say a million good things about it. But I won't because you have to move on. But St. Stephen's Green, I don't know who St. Stephen is, but I know I know it's a fairly packed stop, and it used to be the historical end of this line, but of course they continued it on, and they said, we're going to move it on to the middle of Dublin. So, really nice park, probably one of my favourite parks in existence. It's got a few nice little spots, little statues, and it was right in the middle of the city, and I guess popular for a lot of like protests and stuff as a starting point. It's just a very odd, nice spot to find. There's a Fusiliers Arch there. There's a lot of cool stuff here, including Ivy House and Ivy Gardens. Next up, yes, we have Dawson. Dawson is a new stop that they created. I think I want to say, and it's just a continuation. When they wanted to basically bring the lines together, and it was opened in 2017. It's called the Lewis Cross City, I believe, and what it was is just we want to connect everything together, and it was an ambitious project. It cost a lot of roadworks to take place, a lot of delays, a lot of stuff that was off limits, but again, this is something that they've kind of had in the works, I believe, for a long time, and it was just that continuation of that idea. Trinity College is a big college, and this is what's served near it, so I guess in that regard quite handy. I do find that the train lines around here are quite slow moving, just quite monotonous to get around, so it's a bit of a tough one to get around here. Easy enough, but yeah, I think it's quite good. Sorry, typing. Yeah, I rate it. I rate it. I think it's quite good. I love Trinity College. It's a historical college. It's one of the best in Ireland. It's very nice looking. And it's got a name. Well, it's slagged off a bit, but hey. Westmoreland. Now this is where we sort of get into the whole loop. So what it is there's a loop around Dublin, around the city centre, where the Green Line loops around, I believe, the River Liffey, and goes one way. So this is actually the way coming back. So it it goes both ways, but it comes around in a circle. I find it a little bit confusing, but again, basically, you get on one side and you're going to go the whole way around. but there's also LUAS going. So basically, LUAS is curving around there. There's also LUAS going straight up north, above the River Liffey, but there's just stops that continue going around. It's hard to explain, but all these new stops are interesting. Some being good, some being bad. Westmoreland Street, look, it's a great street. It's the south of the Liffey. There's a lot of O'Connell Street even. There's a lot of buses departing here for different parts of Ireland even. So it's a very busy spot. You got Tara Street, LUAS right there. A lot of historical. The main three streets met here: O'Connell Street, Grafton Street, and I believe this being Westmoreland Street. The three big streets. And of course named after Earl of Westmoreland. He was sort of an old, basically an old, Earl back in the day. So I guess, yeah, that's cool. Westmoreland has a cool name to it. Yeah, next up we have the Econo Bridge, the River Liffey, and the Rosie Hackett Bridge. So you cross over either one of these. Then you have sort of the red line cutting through, which I'll get to later, but the green line actually goes above it for a little bit in the north side with Marlborough. Marlborough is a dodgy street, known for basically drug dealers getting around, getting on and off. So watch yourselves a little bit here. You shouldn't be too bad though. Again, handy enough for me getting to college in the north side. But yeah, not much else going on here. A bit of a derelict spot as we get on to our main place in the north side, being O'Connell GPO. So this is the O'Connell Street. This is a really busy historical street. In terms of shops, okay, it's more just a buzz around the spot, a meeting spot with the Spire. A few buses also meet here. The main streets for shopping are actually off this street in Henry Street, and Abbey Street. So I would say it's cool to look at. Good few old buildings here. Quite grand, quite big street. In terms of Ireland, this is really unusually big. I think because it used to be like a market spot or whatever. But yeah, it's a very distinctive street. You won't miss it. Very straight and very busy. But also you can find a funny few characters here. So don't be messing here. Anyways, another one, O'Connell Upper, and one of those two close street spots. They're just packed together. Like our last one, it's I would say. What am I saying here? Yeah, it's packed together just like Sandyford and Stillorgan were. But again, you need that because there's so many people getting on here. A few funny characters, but yeah, it's a very busy spot. Again, funny enough, walking is sometimes quicker than getting to LUAS here because it's so packed. One of the most packed areas to get around. And there's always gonna be buses flying by, so gotta watch yourself here. Obviously, O'Connell Street, very historical street. Once I got into it, you got your market town back in the day. GPO was obviously where the 1916 Rising happened, which is probably the most important event in Irish history, where there was bullet holes on the actual GPO, where basically rebels were being shooting at the British. So, if you're Irish, you should know this. I don't know too well, but there's also a pillar here called Nelson's Pillar, which got knocked down and replaced with a spire. Kind of controversial, being that the spire looks as it does. But also there's a really nice statue that's here, still here nowadays, called Daniel O'Connell statue, who's a political leader in Ireland and very important person to research. I don't have enough research done. But he was a cool guy, so fair play to him. Parnell. Parnell is part of Parnell Street, which is actually near where I go to college. There's a few cool things here. There's the Gay Theatre, the James Joyce Theatre, and the Hugh Lane Gallery. But yeah, it's actually a nice spot. Historical, like windy little row, cool little knick-knacky shops, some handy ones, some really cool ones. Kind of underrated in my opinion. Nice spot, and I think it's a handy one to have with the Cross City. Next up we have Dominic. Dominic is also near my college and is near Flats. There's a big, gigantic shop here, Pennies, called, I think, Ilex Centres here. Really, very kind of medium-sized old shopping centre, but yeah, lots of stuff in there. Few good shops, few not so good shops, but always busy. But yeah, this is obviously Moore Street, historical for shopping. Yeah, but basically the heartland of North Dublin, in my opinion. I think it could be cleaned up a little bit, but like St. Stephen's Shopping Centre, which is a bit old now at this stage, so I think there needs to be some sort of modernisation occurring there. But hey, I don't know if they'll get the funding. But hey, at the moment, there's a lot of construction going on here, so it's at least this got that going for it. So yeah, this is flatlands basically. We have Broadstone DIT. I want to say this is Phibsborough. So an up and coming area, steam locomotive area. I don't even think I've gone here before, but again, there's part of DIT that's here. I'm not sure which part. I think it's just very north of the Econo Street. Obviously, DIT is basically a college in Dublin that's split up so much. Unlike Trinity, it's basically all over the shop. So you do have to go around a bit to find stuff. But again, some section of DIT is here. Grange Gorman. Grange Gorman is the whole new DIT, where it's like, we're going to expand, we're going to create more college, and this is where they're trying to relocate everyone, so it's like one unified college. But again, it's going to take years, it's going to involve a lot of processes, or etc. But it's an interesting idea that they're trying to amalgamate everything. And yeah, I think that this is not the worst idea in the world. I probably could be better ideas, but not the worst idea in the world. It's also in Mater Hospital, which is an historical hospital, also really nice looking. And the new Grange Gorman campus does actually look quite good, but it did take a while. So next we have Phibsborough. Phibsborough we just mentioned earlier. I have heard about Phibsborough, but again, don't really know too much. It's actually near Dalymount Park, which is where Dalymount. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Where Bohemians play, which is a football team. Really big football team, really historical football team. I joined prison. Yeah, I really like this spot for this cathedral, which I think is amazing. And yeah, it's for those reasons really good. Also lots of bus connections here. Cabra is the last stop, and could be argued this is, it's just North Dublin. I've never been here. It's historically working class. It's got houses here, so that's good. That means that it's going to be used, which I'm happy to see. I don't want to see these people just throwing streets around the shop. This is a completely pointless stop. Like, this has got 22,000 people living here, so it's due stop. And it's got Broom Bridge, which is really nice. Sure, look, it's got a lot of work to be done to it, but I think it's a nice spot. People live here. People need it. So, fair play. That's some of the greens. Now we're going to move on to... Broom Bridge. I didn't mention Broom Bridge. Broom Bridge, where the hell is Broom Bridge? I just mentioned a nice bridge, so I guess that's where this is near. Also near Cabra. Look, the Liffey Junction is here. There's a lot of other train stuff meeting here. So, fair play having a stop here. Because actually this is where the Midland Great Western Rail was. Is that correct? Erstwhile. Yeah, so Liffey Junction's here. Midland Great Western Rail is also here. Someone please explain to me what that means. Basically, it's a historical spot where rail used to be, that controlled Dublin and stuff like that. A lot of just historical places in Ireland. So again, I'm not going to get into it too much, but again, Ireland used to have a lot of rail and not so much rail anymore. If you look back like 100 years ago. So again, a lot of places, it's diminished because of its need compared to roads, which are just better, easier, I guess. Even though I'm to be enthusiastic about trains, but hey, right, let's get over to the Red Line, and we're going to start from Dublin, and then we're going to work our way out. So the Point is actually a historical theatre called Three Arena, which again used to be Point Theatre, used to host Eurovision and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a very big theatre, and it's got a lot going for it. Just great. I've been here once. Wish to go here more. Lots of music on here, lots of festivals. It's the only one like it in Dublin, really, because it's got 20,000 attendants, I believe, which is a fairly populated spot, to be honest. Yeah, Three Arena sounds cool. Oh, Two Arena was cool, but yeah, Three Arena does sound really cool. So yeah, I like the spot. Oh, sorry, 13,000 people, but still, it's got a good feel about it, and there's a good buzz around this place, especially when you're walking over. So yeah, cool. Spencer Dock is the heart of the Docklands. I don't know who Spencer is, but apparently he has a dock. Docklands is also a historical spot for violence, a lot of crime and stuff like that. A lot of drug dealers meeting up here. So it wouldn't be a place I'd hang out much, but hey, it's on the way to other places. There's IFCC is probably near here. And yeah, the convention centre, big convention centre, a lot of stuff happens here. What it looks like is a barrel turned on its side, inside a rectangle. What the hell is that? Apparently one of my teachers, I do architecture, said this was some sort of he made this design in about 2 seconds and got paid about 50 grand for it or something like that, which is crazy. So it just shows you what some architects can be up to. Kevin Roach, apparently. Wow, he died in the age of 96. Actually, that's mad. But I think that's quite funny, to be honest. Yeah. Wow. But I love it. I think with the lights all lit up on the Liffey, it's great. Next up we have the Royal Canal. Royal Canal we mentioned earlier, historical canal. Here it is, Mayor Square. We're getting into Dublin now. Getting back into Dublin again. I'm not too familiar with this area. Near the Docklands. Apartments here. That's all I can really tell you. Opened in 2009 when the sort of section of stations were being built. George's Dock next up, opened as well in 2009. It's near Connolly Station, I want to say. So that's handy enough. You're working your way into Dublin, really. Yes, here we are, Connolly. Connolly I've mentioned earlier in our Dart ones. I'm not going to get back into it again. It's cool that it connects to the LUAS, but yeah, I think that's pretty handy to have those sort of integrations, and there need even more integrations like that as well, like connecting more of the Darts to more of the LUAS's, like for instance on the south side. Busaras is historical because it is the home of Bus Éireann. Bus Éireann is another bus situation, thing that basically connects a lot of Ireland that is otherwise not be connected with buses. Because like Dublin bus serves Dublin, Bus Éireann is going to serve the rest of Dublin. So it's handy in some regards, especially if you live in small towns. That's where it serves, so that's its bread and butter. It's quite handy for that instance, and it also connects with Marlborough Street in the Green Line, so that's cool. Next up, Abbey Street, which connects with O'Connell Street Upper in the Green Line, and so there's obviously this connection because a lot of the stations sort of interlink. Basically, that Green Line is running north to south. The red line in this area is running east to west, or west to east, whatever you prefer. So I quite like that. Abbey Street is, again, historical. Loads of shops here. Some good ones, actually. And some good restaurants. Underrated. So you got a lot going on here. Nice and bustling. Nice. Just do watch yourself when you're crossing the road here. You might get hit. Next up, we have Jervis. Jervis is also a big shopping centre in the heart of Henry Street. And Jervis is nice because it's got a good few shops there. But it's quite modern. So it's like an addition to Ilac. It's like an extension nearly of Ilac. And probably a bit small for my liking, but for what it has, it's actually quite good. So yeah, it's got like JD, which I like, and a few other things. Next up we have Four Courts. Four Courts, historical spot. It's where the courts are, which makes sense. I think there was some 1916 activity here, don't quote me on that. Opened 2004, so part of the original, a line of trains that were rolled out in 2004 for the LUAS. Next up we have Smithfield. Smithfield is famous for kind of being up and coming, gentrified. And the thing about Smithfield is that there's a plaza here, open square, Jameson Distillery, Lighthouse Cinema, really nice cinema by the way. So I really like this area. It's kind of funny because you go through this sort of dodgy-ish place and then you come to this and you're like, this is interesting. But yeah, it's this like sort of artsy cinema with old movies, new movies, etc. Some really nice lights on the lighthouse. I don't know why it's called lighthouse. It's actually not near the sea, but maybe it's something to do with the river. I don't know. I don't know the explanation for that. Jameson Distillery, obviously that's a historical spot. So again, it used to be old industry, now it's new and upcoming, sort of residential and commercial. Next up we have museum. This is where the National Museum of Ireland is. Collins and Barks is probably the better name for it, Collins Barks, because it's his military museum. Been here once before. Very impressive, very big, very nice. And it's just handy enough getting there via the LUAS. And maybe it wasn't as handy getting there before. Probably was with the buses. But hey, LUAS is another option. And you're not going to complain with more options. Now we cross over the Sean Houston Bridge, which is a cast iron bridge. Small but nice. Over the River Liffey. And we arrive at Houston Station. So I guess this is back onto the south side from the north side. And this is probably the biggest station in Ireland. I did a project on this last year. What it is, well, you know yourself, it's a station. I think I explained that well enough, didn't I? But basically it's where the trains from Dublin to the rest of the country sort of sprout out, especially to the west. So Galway, for instance, this is sort of its main area of attack. So I like it. I think it's historical. I think it's really nice. I don't know who Houston is. I think Houston is Sean Houston, is that correct? Who is a member of the Easter 1916. So, respect him. He died in Canal jail in the 1916 Rising at the age of 25. So, that's kind of mad. And, yeah, sad enough. But, look, we live on in this. I think it's quite a nice train station. He doesn't actually live there, but you know what I mean. Anyway, James is up next. James is famous for the National College of Ireland Art and Design and the Guinness Storehouse, two very popular things in Ireland, especially the Guinness Storehouse. The amount of people who go here since 20 years, really. It's crazy how popular this place is. This will be the main focal point of this sort of southwest Dublin city centre. Look, it's really popular, by the way. The architecture actually follows on from the Chicago School of Architecture, which is really nice. And it's got this really nice spot at the top. And all I can think of when I see the Guinness Storehouse is Barack Obama drinking Guinness here, which he did. And it's done well for itself. Guinness itself is, look, it is nice from a pint. Not from a pint, not nice. But anyways, that's my opinion. You can have as much Guinness as you want when you're here, apparently. No, you can't. I don't think they let you do that, but you can have a nice view while you're drinking, so that's something unique. Next up we have Fatima. Fatima sounds like someone who would beat you up, but it's actually a place where you get beat up. No, I'm joking, lads, I don't want to get started a fight here. But Fatima is famous for the Fatima Mansions, which is a public housing complex in this area. So like historically, a lot of people were shoved into this area, so a lot of poverty in the past. Nowadays, you know, new apartments and stuff like that. So, you know, St. James Hospital's here. That's a hospital in actually partnered with Trinity College Dublin. So big hospital. That's the main thing. That's really kind of depressing when that's what you're famous for. But look, that's what it is. Rialto. I love the sound of that Rialto. Just has a funny name to it. But basically, Rialto is famous for Rialto Bridge. If I look at the stop here, it doesn't look too busy, but again, one side is kind of covered in forest, and near the Grand Canal, so it's got a nice vibe to it. Also, Kilmainham's here, Kilmainham Jail. Didn't mention that before, where Sean Houston died, I believe. And yeah, cool. Next up, we have Shore Road as we cross the Grand Canal once again. So I think we're just gone past the Royal Canal. No, you've just gone past Royal Canal. Then the Liffey, then Grand Canal, lots of bridges. We have the Shore Road, which I've never heard of, but it's got, you know, some mixed housing. And look, maybe not the most beautiful place in the world, but it's needed. Lots of housing. Fair play. Also, it's got Dolphin Road. Is Dolphin's Bar near here? Possibly. Next up, we have Golden Bridge. I don't really see any Golden Bridges here. Unless you have another bridge. There really is a fetish for bridges here. Formerly known as Glidon Bridge. Maybe that was a sort of a typo or something. But River Carmack is here, which is a nice little river. And one of the largest in Dublin. And one of the four tributaries of the Liffey. So not much else to say about this one. Again, we're going to probably fly through a lot of these ones. Drimna. Drimna is a fairly big suburb of Dublin, I want to say. There's an old castle here, which is quite nice. And yeah, overall, I think this is quite a cool place. medieval vibes off it, and actually a little bit of river beside. So there's a footbridge here. More bridges. What the hell? Really nice little, like, I think this must be where the canal is, but yeah, it's got a really nice old feel to it. And also, Our Lady's Children's Hospital is here in Crumlin. So that's cool. So this is our access point to Crumlin. Crumlin's obviously a big place in Dublin. Next up, we have Black Horse. Don't know why it's called Black Horse. Was there black horses here? What's the story, travellers? I'm joking. But seriously, what is the story with that name? Oh, it's near Lucan. That's cool because Lucan is a big spot. 49,000 people living here. Get your head around this fact. Very new city, new town. Nice bridge here. Really historical. Got a nice super queen here. Yeah, Lucan's a nice spot. And it means place of marshmallow plants, which is really cool. Place of elms. So I like the sound of that, but I wouldn't eat them plants. So I don't know if that's the safest thing to do. Also, this is why it's called Black Horse. There's a pub called the Black Horse here. That's cool. Naming your stop after your pub. Nice. Next up, Bluebell. Bluebell is a nice spot. Very industrial estate here. Also provides access to Lansdowne Valley Park, which is where the River Carmack is. So you got a mix of housing, you got all that new industrial stuff, and all like really beautiful, wild stuff that they used to have there. Next up, we have Kylemore. Kylemore. The one thing I know about Kylemore is it provides access to Walkinstown, which is home to 6,000 people, real small. Then we have Kylemore College and St. James Gales. I believe also Kylemore Karting, I want to say, is here, which is a go-kart centre. So that's really cool. That's always a positive. I've been here once for that reason. So I think that's where the karting. Yeah, Kylemore Estate here. Yeah, look, it was actually really good fun. I did it a few years ago, but yeah, really enjoyed it. Cool. Rightio. Then we have the M50, which we've mentioned earlier. Then we have Red Cow. Did we not already talk about Red Cow? No, it was Bluebell. Red Cow is, I think this is where all the junctions are for like the main roads and stuff. Real long straight roads here. So that's kind of the main thing I would notice about this area. Once again, nice and populated. Makes sense. Inchicore is here. Home to a good few people. Mary Immaculate Church, another beautiful church. A lot of beautiful churches in Dublin. And also St. Pat's, I believe, play here. So a lot of football, fans here, which is quite cool. Yes, next up we have the depot. The depot, which serves all the way up here. And then we've got like more further afield stops now that we're going to talk about into the suburbs. Kingswood. Kingswood is 2004 once again. It's not giving much information here apart from there's a housing estate called Kingswood here. Also the Tala Medical Centre. So a lot of hospitals and stuff coming up. Bellegarde. Bellegarde is interesting because it has these sort of weird overhead shading / roof thing, which you would be weird to see in this sort of country, more like a Dubai or something. But I still like it. It's interesting. This is serving Tala and Saggart. Saggart is famous for being a place. But yeah, Saggart is very much, we'll get to that in a sec. But Bellegarde exists, and I guess it's on the way to these things. I like it. I think it's a simple spot, but it's also got views of the mountains. So cool. Yeah, next up we have Cookstown, and this is where the actual split occurs, just like we had in the Dart last week, where there's the Tala route and the Saggart route. So we're going to focus on that Tala route first, which I believe is a bit more in to the east, maybe? I'm going to have that wrong. Cookstown, which is on the way to Tala. Kind of open spaces, mountain views, really nice spot to look at. But again, it's been industrialized, bought up a bit more, which is kind of taking away from the beauty. Next up, we have the hospital, which is about as positive as anyone would say about a hospital. I think this is where Tala Hospital is. Yeah, Tala University Hospital, big hospital, kind of dominates the whole space. Real new, real clean. I believe this hospital must have been very new. Yeah, it's been open for 22 years, so it looks good for that. 23 years. So, yeah, near Tala, green spaces, not much else to say. Finally, for this spot, we have Tala, which has parking, which is cool. Tala is famous for basically being the home of Irish football, kind of, with the Tala Stadium, where a lot of teams play. It's only got 8,000 people, but Shamrock Rovers, big team in Ireland, play here. There's the Square Shopping Centre, kind of got a bad reputation to it, but it's a big shopping centre, opened in 1990. Then you've got, just the fact that Tala exists. It's very much the most famous new suburb of Ireland, where new suburb referring to is sort of people getting taken out of Dublin and brought here because of lack of housing. So people who would historically have been in sort of poor housing in the city brought out here. So there is a lot of poverty here, but there's 76,000 people live here, huge amount of people. So it's nearly a city in its own right. Like a lot of cities in Ireland are not this big. I think Galway only has about less than this. So this is a really populated area. Tala, it's got its own identity. It's fairly much separate to Dublin itself. There's a lot of bad stuff happens here, but look, we're used to it. We hear about Tala a lot in the news and stuff like that. It's kind of out there, and it's kind of its own thing. Next, let's move on to the Saggart section of the Red Line. We have Cairn, which is just a really funny name, I think, in my opinion. Again, this reminds me of like a Sandyford or not even a Sandyford, like one of those stops like Bridesglen, like something like that. But there's really not much here. But I guess they had it onto the way to other stuff, so it's like we may as well build a stop just to like break up the stations a bit. Like, we need an extra station here, so we just put one in. So that's what Cairn to me sounds like. Then we have Cheeverstown, which has parking. Cheeverstown is on the reserved track of the Catherine Tynan Road. This honestly looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. It's got just grass around it. It's like they just built this through a frecking field. No offense, but yeah, it's got parking. That's cool. It's nice looking, and they took a picture on iState clearly, but like there's not much here. It was opened in 2011, so fairly recent. Next we have City West Campus. City West is a place I have heard of. Just a newish town. A newish suburb area. This is more of a business campus like Sandyford, but over in the west. Really new, cool looking place there. Ryan Academy. So there's a lot of money pumped into this, to be honest. Dunn Stores, Educate Together, DCU. It's actually got a facility for DCU. It's actually not even that close to DCU. Well, maybe it is. Ballymun, City West. I'm not sure what the distance is there, but overall, it's got money in it. It's got a lack of residential maybe there, so that's one thing I would say about it. Probably not the most useful station, to be honest. Then we have, I guess for the shops maybe. Fortunestown, we have, I've never even heard of this place, to be honest. Near City West. It's got buses, it's got golf course, shopping centre, housing, hotel, amenities, whatever. I guess the whole idea is that this is going to serve like a lot of people in Tala maybe, who are just like, this is closer to them than Dublin, but honestly I'd rather go Dublin. But anyways, I guess there is a fair bit of distance there, so I guess there needs to be other shops available, which is cool. And this was opened in 2011. Finally, not last but not least, Saggart. Saggart is the last stop on this list, and probably the most far out stop. I mean, think about the distance you can travel from. You can literally travel non-stop from Bridesglen all the way to Saggart, and also all the way to Point Theatre up to the north, up to where else did I say? The Point Theatre. You got Connolly Station, you got Grand Canal, you got everything in Dublin pretty much. Even out as far as Cabra, out as far as Dundrum, all these places. It's basically everything you can see in Dublin, apart from a couple places I'd say in the south side and the north side. But Saggart Village is in southwest Dublin. Saggart itself, let's try to get to the Saggart link on Wikipedia. I'm using Wikipedia as my link. It's a very, very small little village. 3,000 people live here. Little parish church, really out in the middle of nowhere. I think I mentioned this before. It did increase by population of 46% in about 5 years, which is crazy. Probably mostly due to the fact that the LUAS exists. So I think it's probably become more and more appealing due to that. It's crazy how, trains can influence that. Obviously, I think it's named after Sacra, which is a house Sacra, which is sacred, church, etc. It's got that link to it. Saggart, I believe, was priest in Irish, I believe. Might be wrong there. But Saggart is very much near Kildare, if I look on a map. So it's out there. But anyways, that's all the LUAS. Maybe in the future they'll expand the LUAS. I'll have to do more of these. I'm not sure. It is actually very near the border, I guess. But Saggart is so out there in terms of, it's basically in the green. It's like it's in the middle of nowhere nearly. So it's crazy how you get from the most populated areas in Dublin to the least populated areas in Dublin. Very closely linked because there's a lot of green space on the very outskirts. There's a lot to see. In my opinion, or like a cross link between the green and the red would be handy, just through maybe some of the south side stuff, like Farnham, Terranure kind of don't get much reputation of stops. Kimmage, same thing. Ballyboden, like all these places kind of left out of the mix. And even on the north side, like we've got the likes of Drumcondra, Beaumont, DCU, Finglas, all these areas, Clontarf. Well, maybe not Clontarf because but Artane, all these areas that don't really get as much. They might get a bit of the Dart, but not as much. But again, quite a lack of links in those areas where buses are there, but buses are really pain in the arse, in my opinion, sometimes. So I think there needs some expansion there. But anyway, we'll see what happens. This has been a pretty long, extended edition of this show. But anyways, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. I'll see you all next week. Good luck.